The storm surrounding Floyd Mayweather's legacy has been reignited with Terrence, Bud Crawford's historic triumph over Canelo Alvarez, a victory that has forced boxing fans, fighters, and analysts alike to revisit one of the sport's most polarizing debates. Could Crawford, at his peak, be considered greater than the undefeated Floyd "Money" Mayweather? The question has become more than hypothetical. It now sits at the very heart of boxing's present and future. Canelo Alvarez himself fueled the fire when he admitted that Crawford was simply better. Reflecting on his own past, he drew a sharp contrast between his loss to Floyd Mayweather as a young, unpolished 23-year-old and his more recent defeat at the hands of Crawford. When he was considered the face of boxing at his peak, to Canelo, the version of himself that fought Floyd was still learning, still growing. But against Crawford, he was complete and still got beaten soundly. In his words, "When Floyd beat me, I was a kid. When Bud beat me, I was the man." That acknowledgment carried weight, because it came from a fighter who had stepped into the ring with both legends. Crawford's dominance was undeniable. And fighters like Shawn Porter, who once shared the ring with him, pointed out that Bud simply doesn't back down. His style is built on adaptability and ruthlessness. "You fighting Bud? He fight?" Porter said. "He's not running from nobody." That willingness to meet fire with fire is precisely why many fighters believe he could have posed a nightmare matchup for Mayweather, whose defensive brilliance often stifled aggressors, but could have been tested by Crawford's timing, power, and ability to adjust mid-fight. Joe Rogan captured the sense of awe that swept through the combat sports world after Crawford's win. He marveled not just at the skill on display, but at the sheer improbability of the achievement. At 37 years old, Crawford moved up to weight classes to face a fighter who had reigned as boxing's king for over a decade. Rogan emphasized that no fighter at that stage of their career had ever accomplished something so audacious, stepping into a heavier division against one of the sport's most decorated champions, and not just surviving, but dismantling him. "That's history," Rogan said. "You shouldn't be able to do that at 37. He's beyond an outlier. He's an anomaly." But the debate doesn't stop at admiration. Paulie Malignaggi, never shy about speaking his mind, reminded fans that such comparisons will always remain inconclusive, because Mayweather and Crawford belonged to different eras. Floyd was the master of his generation, retiring with a flawless 52-0 record. Having beaten everyone from Oscar de la Hoya to Manny Pacquiao to a young Canelo Alvarez, Crawford, meanwhile, is carving his path across divisions, conquering champions at lightweight, junior welterweight, and now shocking the world at super middleweight. To Malignaggi, this is what makes boxing fascinating. The arguments are endless, the comparisons eternal, and no definitive answer exists. Timothy Bradley, however, broke from neutrality. He boldly claimed that Crawford has everything needed to beat Mayweather. From his perspective, Floyd's struggles against southpaws like Zab Judah hinted at vulnerabilities Crawford could exploit. "Crawford will whoop his ass," Bradley said without hesitation. He detailed how Crawford's reach, counter-punching ability, and southpaw stance would force Floyd into dangerous territory. In his eyes, Mayweather's precision in defense would not be enough against a fighter who could match him in speed, surpass him in power, and adapt on the fly. Other voices in the sport took the conversation further, suggesting that for Crawford to truly surpass Mayweather's legacy, he must chase even greater challenges like Dimitri Bivol, the light heavyweight champion who has already beaten Canelo in Artur Beterbiev. Such a fight would test Crawford against a naturally larger, technically brilliant opponent in his prime, something Floyd himself never attempted. Defeating Bivol, some argue, would erase all doubts and cement Crawford as the definitive greatest of all time. Reports have even circulated that Crawford is eyeing middleweight next, daring to become a six-division world champion, an achievement only legends of the sport have ever approached. Yanibeka Limkanyuli, the unified IBF and WBO middleweight champion, has already stepped forward to challenge Crawford. The Kazakh fighter taunted Bud not to be afraid, offering him the chance to step into a glamour division made famous by icons like Sugar Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, and Tommy Hearns. Crawford, who has already cleaned out welterweight and conquered super welterweight, could further his place in history by dominating at middleweight. The possibility alone has electrified fans and analysts, sparking debates about just how far his ambition might carry him. Meanwhile, Crawford's trainer, Brian "Bomac" McIntyre, insists that Bud's legacy should not be dictated by critics or public demand. For years, Crawford has been accused of ducking certain opponents, but Bomac dismissed the idea entirely. "He's not ducking anybody. He's just not available," he said. To him, Crawford's career is about following his own path, not chasing validation from skeptics. Against Canelo, Bomac described the fight as almost easy proof that their preparation and strategy were flawless. For all the talk of what fights Crawford should take, his trainer believes his record already speaks for itself. Still, reminders of Mayweather's genius continue to echo. Analysts like Tony Jeffries have pointed out that what made Floyd untouchable was not just his defense, but his footwork and control of the ring. Every pivot, every sidestep was calculated to perfection. He wasted no energy, always placing himself in the ideal position to land and avoid punches. Floyd's movement, Jeffries argued, made him an artist in the ring untouchable because he always controlled the geometry of the fight. That mastery over distance and angles remains unmatched, even by fighters as skilled as Crawford. Yet others point to the evolution of Crawford himself. Miguel "Silky Smooth" Gonzalez, the last man to beat Bud in the amateurs, reflected on how different the Omaha Star has become. Back then, Crawford could be lured into brawls, dragged into wars where his composure slipped. Today, however, he has grown into a master of discipline and adaptability, capable of luring opponents into traps rather than falling into theirs. Gonzalez stressed that to beat Crawford now, a fighter must counter with relentless pressure, attack the body, and never let him dictate the pace. But he admitted that this version of Crawford, much like Mayweather in his prime, would simply be too good to crack. At the core of this debate lies the timeless allure of boxing itself. Legends are measured not just by their records, but by how they are remembered, argued about, and compared across eras. Mayweather retired, undefeated, his defensive brilliance ensuring his place among the immortals. Crawford, still active, is building a case that he may belong not just beside Floyd, but above him. His willingness to seek challenges, his ability to conquer weight divisions, and his destruction of champions all fuel the argument that he is more than just great. He is transcendent. For fans, the conversation is a dream that will never materialize in reality. Mayweather and Crawford will never share a ring, never settle the question with their fists. But in many ways, that only makes the debate more thrilling. It invites imagination, speculation, and passion. And as Crawford's journey continues, every new chapter will add fuel to the fire. So now the question falls to you. Is Terrence "Bud" Crawford already greater than Floyd Mayweather? Or does he still have mountains left to climb before surpassing money? Do you believe a victory over fighters like Bivol or Janabek would put the debate to rest once and for all? Let us know what you think in the comments below.